Welcome to Tech Knowledge Hub, and now jump into the world of programming. Whether you're a beginner, a student, or just curious about coding, we have the perfect start for you. In just 90 minutes, you'll go from zero to writing your very own C programs. Yes, you heard that right. 90 minutes. This isn't just another boring lecture. This is learn by doing. A hands-on interactive way to master C programming. No fluff, no unnecessary jargon. Just pure practical coding skills, delivered in a way that's simple, fun, and unbelievably effective. Short and sweet. Get the essentials, fast. Learn by doing. Practice as you go, every step of the way. Perfect for beginners. No prior coding experience, no problem. Imagine the thrill of writing your very first program, solving real-world problems, and building a solid foundation in programming. All in the time it takes to watch a movie. This is your chance to unlock the world of coding and take the first step toward becoming a developer, an innovator, or maybe even a tech entrepreneur. It all starts here, with you and this 90-minute C programming journey. So, what are you waiting for? Click now and start your programming adventure. Let's dive into C programming together. It's time to create, learn, and achieve. One line of code at a time. C programming. Learn by doing in 90 minutes. Your journey begins now. In today's agenda, we'll be learning everything from the basics of C programming to advanced concepts and practical applications. First, we'll start with an introduction to C programming, its history, why it's still relevant, and where it's used. Then, we'll move on to the basic syntax and fundamentals, things like variables, data types, and how to write your first C program. Next up is control flow. You know, the logic behind decisions and loops like if-else, for and while. After that, we'll explore functions, so you can write cleaner and more organized code. But that's not all. We'll dive into arrays and strings to work with collections of data, followed by pointers, a powerful feature that helps you manage memory like a pro. We'll also cover structures and unions for organizing complex data, and then file handling, so you can work with files in your programs. Once we've got the basics down, we'll tackle some advanced concepts, like dynamic memory allocation and recursion. To wrap it all up, we'll talk about projects and practical applications to apply what you've learned and even prepare you for real-world challenges. And of course, we'll include tips for preparing for interviews with common C programming questions. Sounds exciting, right? Let's get started.
Welcome to our C programming series. In today's video, we'll dive into an exciting overview of C programming. Whether you're a beginner or just curious about this legendary language, you're in the right place. By the end of this video, you'll understand about the fascinating history of C and its real-world applications, and then we will learn why we should learn C programming and then how C stacks up against other programming languages. The history of C programming begins in the early 1970s at Bell Labs. Let's rewind to that era. 1972, the birth of C. C was created by Dennis Ritchie, a computer scientist at Bell Laboratories. Its primary goal was to improve the development of the Unix operating system. Fun fact, before C, there was a language called B, developed by Ken Thompson, which heavily influenced C. Why was C created? Unix, an operating system, needed a flexible, portable, and efficient language. C replaced assembly language to make software development easier and less hardware dependent. Developments over time. C laid the groundwork for many later languages. It inspired languages like C++, Java, Python, and more. It was standardized in 1989 by NSI and later updated in 1990 by ISO. Did you know? C is considered the mother of most modern programming languages. Applications of C. Now that we know its origins, let's explore where C is used in the real world. Spoiler, it's almost everywhere. First is operating systems. C powers critical components of operating systems like Windows, Linux, and even macOS. The majority of Unix itself is written in C. Second is embedded systems. Think of your microwaves, washing machines, or even the engine control system in cars. These rely heavily on C because of its speed and efficiency. Third is game development. Games require high performance and efficient memory management. Game engines like Unreal Engine use C or C++ for their cores. Fourth is databases. Popular databases like MySQL are written in C, highlighting its importance in handling data and backend systems. Fifth is compilers and interpreters. Even programming languages like Python, Java, and others have components or interpreters written in C. Why learn C? Okay, so C is great and all. But why should you learn C? Let me give you a few compelling reasons. First is foundation of programming. C teaches you the fundamentals of programming like memory management, pointers, and logic building. These are transferable skills for almost every language. Second is portability and efficiency. C is a machine independent language. Code written in C can run on multiple hardware platforms with little to no modification. Third is understanding the core. Learning C helps you understand how computers actually work under the hood. This is especially helpful if you plan to dive into areas like operating systems or hardware programming. Fourth is demand in industries. C is still highly relevant, especially in industries like robotics, IoT, and system software. Fifth is gateway to advanced languages. After mastering C, you'll find it much easier to learn languages like C++, Java, and even Python. It's like building a strong foundation for a skyscraper. C versus other programming languages. Now let's compare C with some other popular programming languages to understand its unique strengths. C versus C++. C++ is an extension of C with added object-oriented programming features. While C focuses on procedural programming, C++ allows you to think in terms of objects and classes. Use case C is best for low-level programming, while C++ shines in software development requiring complex designs. C versus Python. Python is high-level and easy to learn, but it sacrifices performance. C, on the other hand, gives you unmatched speed and control over system resources. Use case. Choose Python for rapid development, but C for system-critical applications like kernels. C versus Java. Java provides portability through its JVM, but it abstracts you away from memory management. C gives you complete control. Use case. Java is great for web and enterprise applications, while C is ideal for embedded and system programming. And that wraps up our overview of C programming. We've explored its history, applications, and its comparison with other languages. C may be old, but it's still gold in the programming world. In the next video, we'll dive into installing a C compiler and writing your first C program. We're going hands on to set up the perfect environment for writing and running C programs. If you've been wondering how to install a compiler, choose the best ID, or write and execute your first program, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Installing a C compiler. To write and run C programs, the first thing you need is a C compiler. One of the most popular and widely used compilers is GCCC, which stands for New Compiler Collection. For Windows users, we use MinGW, which includes GCC. First step is download MinGW. Open your web browser and go to the MinGW official website. Then click on the download link to get the MinGW installation manager. Second step is install MinGW. Run the installer. Select the packages for GCC and G++ compilers. Wait for the installation to complete. Third step is configure environment variables. Go to System Properties and edit the path variable. Add the path to the bin folder inside your MinGW directory. Now let's verify the installation. Open your terminal or command prompt and type GCC version. If you see the GCC version details, congratulations. Your compiler is ready to use for Mac and Linux users. Most Unix-based systems already come with GCC pre-installed. Simply type GCC version in your terminal to check. Setting up your IDE. While you can write C programs in any text editor, using an integrated development environment IDE makes your life much easier. Let's explore a couple of popular options. First is Code Blocks. Code Blocks is a beginner-friendly IDE with everything you need to write, compile and run C programs. First step is download Code Blocks. Visit the official Code Blocks website and download the version with MinGW included. Second step is install Code Blocks. Run the installer and during setup, make sure the MinGW option is checked. Third step is open Code Blocks. Launch the IDE and create a new project or open a file to start coding. Second is Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is a lightweight yet powerful editor. If you prefer customization and flexibility, VS Code is an excellent choice. First step is download VS Code. Go to the Visual Studio Code website and download the installer for your operating system. Second step is install extensions. After installing, open VS Code and go to the extensions marketplace. Search for and install the C or C++ extension pack by Microsoft. Third step is configure compiler path. Go to the settings file in VS Code and set the path to the MinGW bin folder. With your IDE ready, let's move on to writing and running your first C program. Now that your environment is set up, it's time to write your first C program. Don't worry, it's easier than you think. Let's start with the classic Hello World example. Writing code in Code Blocks. Open Code Blocks and select File, then New, and then select Empty File. Save the file with a C extension, for example, hello.c. Type the following code. This code does three things. First, it includes the standard input-output library using hash include stdio.h. Then we defines the main function, which is the entry point for the program. And after that, we prints hello world to the console using the printf function. Writing code in VS Code. Open VS Code and create a new file. Save it as hello.c. Then type the same hello world program code. Compiling and running programs in C. Once you've written your code, the next step is to compile and run it. This converts your code into machine-readable instructions. Compiling and running in code blocks. In code blocks, click on Build, then after click on Build and Run. The program will compile and the output will appear in the console window. If everything is set up correctly, you'll see Hello World displayed in the output window. Compiling and running in VS Code. Open the terminal in VS Code. Navigate to the folder where your file is saved. Compile the program using the command gcc hello.c hello. Run the compiled program. You should see Hello World in your terminal. And there you have it, your first C program successfully compiled and executed. Let's quickly recap what we've covered today. We installed a C compiler in GW and configured it. We set up IDE like Code Blocks and Visual Studio Code. We wrote a simple Hello World program. And finally, we compiled and ran the program using both IDE and the command line. If you followed along, give yourself a pat on the back. You've just taken your first step into the world of C programming. We're diving deep into the basic syntax and fundamental building blocks of a C program. By the end of this video, you'll understand the structure of a C program, preprocessor directives, the role of the main function, and the importance of header files. So let's get started. Structure of a C program. Every C program follows a specific structure, which is both simple and logical. Here's a typical layout of a C program. Let's break this code down step by step. Preprocessor directives. Preprocessor directives are lines in your code that begin with a hash. These are instructions for the preprocessor which runs before the actual compilation process. Let's see an example. This line tells the compiler to include the standard input-output header file. It gives your program access to functions like printf and scanf. Think of preprocessor directives as setup instructions. They prepare the environment for your program to run. Common preprocessor directives. First is hash include. It includes header files. Second is hash define. It defines constants or macros. Third is hash if def or hash if def. It shows conditional compilation. Main function. Next up is the main function, the heart of every C program. Without it, your program won't run. The main function is the entry point for your program. Here's a closer look at its components. First is return typing. The return type specifies what type of value the function will return. For main, it's typically an integer int. Returning 0 indicates successful program execution. Second is curly braces. The code inside these braces is what your program will execute. Third is statements. Each statement inside main ends with a semicolon. This is a fundamental rule of C syntax. Header files. Header files are essential for using predefined functions and macros. They act as libraries, providing reusable code that saves you time and effort. List of common header files. Hash include stdio.h. It provides standard input-output functions printf and scanf. Hash include math.h. It provides mathematical functions sqrt, pow. Hash include stdlib.h. It provides general utility functions malloc, exit. Hash includes string.h. It provides string manipulation functions strlen, *spy. Without the appropriate header file, your program won't recognize the function you're trying to use. For example, printf requires stdio.h. Forget to include it, and the compiler will throw an error, writing a complete program. Now that you understand the basics, let's write a complete program from scratch. We'll combine everything we've learned so far. The hash include stdio.h directive includes the header file for the printf function. The main function contains the logic of the program. Printf welcome to C programming outputs a message to the screen. The return 0 statement tells the operating system that the program ran successfully. Let's compile and run this program in our IDE to see it in action. Common errors and debugging tips. While working with basic syntax, it's easy to make small mistakes. Let's look at some common errors and how to fix them. First is missing semicolon. To fix this error, always end statements with a semicolon. Second is forgetting to include header files. To fix this, include the correct header file at the beginning of your program. Third is mismatched braces. To fix this, use an IDE with syntax highlighting to catch these errors easily. Let's quickly recap what we've learned today. First, we learned that every C program has a structured preprocessor directives, the main function and code statements. Then we learn about preprocessor directives like hash include libraries and macros. Then we learn that the main function is the starting point for every program. And finally, we learn that header files provide access to essential functions and macros. Here are some best practices to keep in mind. Always use meaningful comments to describe your code. Follow consistent indentation for better readability. Start with simple programs to build confidence before moving to complex ones. And that's it for today's video on the structure of a C program. In the next video, we'll explore variables and data types, taking another step into the world of C. Today, we're tackling a fundamental concept in programming: variables and data types. By the end of this session, you'll be able to declare and use variables, understand C's primary data types, work with constants, and learn about reserved keywords in C. Let's dive right in. What are variables? A variable is a placeholder or container in programming used to store data. Think of it like a labeled box where you can keep information and retrieve it when needed. How to declare variables in C? In C, declaring a variable is simple. You specify the data type followed by the variable name. Here's the syntax. First we write the data type, then after we write the variable name. Let's see this in action. Here, int, float, and char are data types that define the kind of data the variable can store. We'll explore these data types in detail soon. Assigning values to variables. Once declared, you can assign values to variables using the assignment operator that is equal to. You can also declare and assign values in separate steps like this. This flexibility makes variables easy to work with. Data types in C. C provides a rich set of data types to handle different kinds of data. Let's break them down into three main categories. First is basic data types, second is derived data types, and the third one is user-defined data types. For now, we'll focus on the basic data types. Basic data types. Here's a quick summary of basic data types in C. So here we have 4 columns: data type, size in bytes, description, and their example values. First is int. Its size in bytes is 4, and it stores integers. Second is float. Its size in bytes is also 4, and it stores decimal numbers. Third is char. Its size in bytes is 1, and it stores single characters. Fourth is double, its size in bytes is 8 and it stores double precision decimals. Last one is void, its size is not defined and it indicates no value or return type. Using different data types. Let's see how to use these data types in a program. In this example, %d is used to print integers. %1f specifies a float with one decimal. %c is for characters. And %10f prints a double with 10 decimal places. Always choose the right data type based on the kind of data you're working with. This ensures efficient memory usage. Constants in C. A constant is a value that cannot be changed once defined. You can use constants for fixed values like pi or configuration settings. Defining constants. Constants in C can be defined in two ways. First is using the hash defined preprocessor directive. Second is using the const keyword. Here's an example program. Using constants makes your code more readable and prevents accidental modification of critical values. Keywords in C. Keywords are reserved words in C that have special meanings. You cannot use them as variable names or identifiers. Common keywords. First is int keyword. It declares integer variables. Second is float keyword. It declares floating point variables. Third is char keyword. It declares character variables. Fourth is if keyword. It is used for conditional statements. Fifth is return keyword. It specifies a return value from a function. There are 32 keywords in C and they're all case sensitive. For example, int won't work as a substitute for int. Common errors and debugging tips. Let's look at some common mistakes when working with variables and data types and how to fix them. First is uninitialized variables. To fix this, always initialize variables before use. Second is mismatched data types. To fix this, ensure the data type matches the value being assigned. Use float for decimal numbers. Let's quickly summarize what we've covered today. Variables are containers for data declared with a specific data type. C provides basic data types like int, float, char, and double. Constants are immutable values defined using hash define or const. Keywords are reserved words in C and you can't use them as variable names. Best practices: use meaningful variable names for clarity. Always initialize variables before use. Choose the smallest data type that fits your data for efficient memory usage. That's for today on variables and data types in C programming. These are the building blocks for writing powerful and efficient programs. In the next video, we'll explore input and output in C. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, drop your questions or suggestions in the comments below. C programming series. Today, we're diving into one of the most crucial parts of programming, that is input and output. In this video, we'll explore how to display output using printf, take input from users in Scanf, and understand how to use format specifiers effectively. By the end of this video, you'll confidently write programs that interact with users. Let's get started. What is input and output in C? In C, input refers to taking data from the user, while output involves displaying information back to the user. These are essential for creating interactive programs. In C, we achieve this using functions like printf for output and scan for input. Let's start with printf. Displaying output with printf. The printf function is used to display text and data on the screen. It's part of the sto.h library, so make sure to include this header file in your program. Basic syntax of printf. The format string specifies what to print, and the arguments are the values or variables to display. Let's see an example. In this program, the text inside the double quotes is displayed on the screen. The /n at the end creates a new line for better formatting. Using variables with printf. Now let's use printf to display the values of variables. In this example, %d is a format specifier for integers. %.1f is for floats, rounded to one decimal place. We'll discuss format specifiers in detail later. Taking input with scanf. To make your program interactive, you can use scanf to take input from the user. Like printf, it's part of the sto.h library. Basic syntax of scanf. The format string specifies the type of data to input, and the variable tells the compiler where to store the value entered by the user. Let's see a simple example using scanf. In this program, the scan function waits for the user to type a value and press enter. The %d specifies that the input should be an integer. Format specifiers. Format specifiers are essential when using printf and scanf to handle different data types. Let's go through some common ones. Common format specifiers. Here we have 3 columns. Data type P, format specifier, and example usage. First is int, and its format specifier is %d. Second is float, and its format specifier is %f. Third is char, and its format specifier is %c. Fourth one is string, and its format specifier is %s. Last one is double, and its format specifier is %lf. Printing multiple data types. You can combine multiple format specifiers in a single printf statement. Let's see how. This program displays an integer, a character, and a floating point number all in one line. The format specifies %d, %c, and %.2f ensure correct formatting. Common errors with printf and scanf. Let's discuss some common mistakes and how to avoid them. First is forgetting the and in scanf. To fix this, always use before variable names in scanf for non-array variables. Second is mismatched format specifiers. To fix this, ensure the format specifier matches the variable's data type. Use %d for integers, %f for floats, and so on. Let's summarize what we've learned today. Use printf to display output with format specifiers like %d, %f, and %c. Use scan to take user input, ensuring you match the correct format specified with the variable type. Always remember to use in scan for non-array variables. Best practices: always validate user input to handle errors gracefully. Format your output for readability using escape characters like /n. That's it for today's session on input and output in C. Practice writing small programs to get comfortable with printf and scanf. We're diving into operators in C, one of the fundamental tools that make programming possible. Here's what we'll cover: arithmetic operators, relational and logical operators, bitwise operators, and assignment and miscellaneous operators. We'll keep this simple, clear, and practical. Let's get started. What are operators in C? Operators are symbols that perform specific operations on data. For example, adding two numbers, comparing two values, or working with binary data. Understanding operators is crucial for writing powerful programs. Let's begin with arithmetic operators. Arithmetic operators. Arithmetic operators help you perform basic mathematical operations. Here's a quick overview. Here we have 4 columns: operators, description, example, and their result. Notice how the division gives the integer part of the result. To get a decimal, you need to use float or double. Relational and logical operators. Next, we have relational operators which compare two values. Here we have 4 columns: operator, meaning with example and result. Logical operators. Logical operators let you combine conditions. Here we have 4 columns: operator and their meaning with example and result. Remember, in C, true is represented by 1 and false by 0. Logical operators are extremely useful in decision-making statements like if and while. Bitwise operators. Now let's look at bitwise operators, which operate on binary representations of numbers. Here's a quick list. Bitwise operations are incredibly useful in low-level programming, such as embedded systems and cryptography. Assignment and miscellaneous operators. Finally, we have assignment operators. These let you assign and update values efficiently. Miscellaneous operators. There are a few additional operators, such as size of, it returns the size of a data type. Conditional ternary operator, a shorthand for if else. Comma operator, it allows multiple expressions in a single statement. That wraps up our introduction to operators in C. To recap, we covered arithmetic operators for calculations, relational and logical operators for comparisons, bitwise operators for binary level operations, and assignment and miscellaneous operators for efficient coding. Try these out in your own programs to solidify your understanding. Today we'll explore one of the most essential aspects of programming, that is conditional statements. If, else if and else. Nested if statements, switch case statements, break, continue and go to. We'll go step by step with practical examples for each concept. Let's jump right in. Introduction to conditional statements. Conditional statements are the backbone of decision making in programming. They allow you to execute code blocks based on whether a condition is true or false. Think of it like a traffic signal. If it's green, you go. If it's yellow, you slow down. If it's red, you stop. Let's start with the most basic conditional statement, the if statement. If, else if, and else statement. The if statement is used to execute a block of code only if a condition is true. Here's the syntax. Here's how it works in a real program. In this example, we check multiple conditions using if, else if, and else. Notice how each condition is evaluated in sequence. Nested if statements. Sometimes you may need to check conditions inside other conditions. This is called a nested if statement. Here's a practical example. Here we use a nested if to add an additional condition inside the first one. This is useful when decisions depend on multiple factors. Switch case statement. Next, let's discuss the switch case statement, which is great for handling multiple conditions based on a single variable. Here's the syntax. Here's how you can use it in a program. The break statement prevents fall through, ensuring only one case runs. The default case handles unexpected values. Break and continue. Speaking of break, let's dive deeper into what it does. The break statement exits a loop or switch case prematurely. The continue statement, on the other hand, skips the rest of the code in the current iteration and moves to the next iteration. In this example, the loop stops completely when I is equal to 3 because of break. With continue, the program skips the iteration where I is equal to 3 but continues the loop. Go to statement. Finally, we have the go to statement, which allows you to jump to a labeled section of code. It's rarely used but can be helpful in specific scenarios like error handling. Here's an example. While GoTo can simplify some tasks, it's generally discouraged because it can make your code hard to read and debug. That's it for conditional statements in C. Let's quickly recap. We learned about if, and else for decision making, nested if for more complex conditions, switch case for handling multiple cases, the role of break and continue, and the use of GoTo for jumps. These concepts are vital for writing flexible and efficient programs. Try them out in your own code and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Welcome to this in-depth session on loops in C programming. Loops are an essential concept that allows us to repeat a block of code multiple times, making our programs more efficient and concise. By the end of this video, you will have a solid understanding of for loop, while loop, do while loop, nested loops. So let's dive straight into the world of loops. Understanding loops in C. Before we jump into specific loops, let's quickly understand the concept. Loops allow you to execute a block of code multiple times based on a condition. This avoids writing repetitive code and makes your programs more dynamic. There are three types of loops in C. First is for loop, ideal when you know the exact number of iterations. Second is while loop, perfect for situations where the condition depends on runtime logic. Third is do while loop, executes the loop body at least once, regardless of the condition. For loop, the for loop is used when the number of iterations is known beforehand. Here's the syntax. Let's see a practical example to print numbers from 1 to 10. In this example, int I equal to 1 initializes the counter variable I. I less than equal to 10 checks the condition before each iteration. I increments the counter after each iteration. Here's another use case, calculating the sum of the first 10 natural numbers. While loop. The while loop executes a block of code as long as a specified condition is true. Here's its syntax. Let's look at an example to print even numbers from 2 to 20. In this example, the loop continues as long as num less than equal to 20. Inside the loop, we print num and increment it by 2. Let's see another example, finding the factorial of a number using a while loop. Do-while loop. The do-while loop is similar to the while loop but guarantees that the loop body will execute at least once. Here's the syntax. Here's an example, taking input from the user until they enter a positive number. In this case, the loop body will execute at least once, even if the user enters a non-positive number initially. Nested loops. Nested loops are loops within loops. They are particularly useful for multidimensional tasks like working with matrices or printing patterns. Let's see an example to print a multiplication table from 1 to 5. In this example, the outer loop controls the row I. The inner loop calculates and prints the multiplication for each column j, printing a star pattern. Here's a classic example, printing a right-angled triangle pattern of stars. Here, the outer loop determines the number of rows and the inner loop prints stars for each row. Comparing loops. Let's quickly compare the three types of loops. For loop, best for known iterations. While loop, ideal when the condition is evaluated dynamically. Do while loop ensures the block executes at least once. Choose the loop that best fits your problem. And that's a wrap for today. We explored for loop iteration with a clear count. While loop, flexible runtime condition checks. Do while loop, guaranteed execution of the loop body. Nested loops, handling multidimensional tasks like patterns and matrices. Loops are the backbone of any programming language, and mastering them opens the door to more advanced topics. Today, we'll take a deep dive into one of the most crucial aspects of any programming language, that is functions. In this session, we'll cover introduction to functions, built-in versus user-defined functions, function syntax and execution flow, parameter passing, call by value and call by reference. Advanced topics, recursion, scope and lifetime of variables, and inline functions. Then grab a notebook and let's start. Introduction to functions. Functions are reusable blocks of code designed to perform a specific task. They make your program modular, readable, and maintainable. Let's start by understanding the two main types of functions in C. First is built-in functions. Second is user-defined functions. Built-in functions. C provides several built-in functions such as printf, scanf, and mathematical functions like sqrt and pow. These are pre-written and included in libraries like istio.h and math.h, for example. You can directly use these functions by including the appropriate header file. User-defined functions. User-defined functions are the ones you create. They allow you to break down a program into smaller, reusable parts. Here's the syntax of a function. Let's write a simple function that adds two numbers. In this program, the function add takes two integers as parameters, adds them, and returns the result. The main function calls add and prints the result. Parameter passing. Now let's understand how data is passed to functions using call by value and call by reference. Call by value. In call by value, a copy of the actual parameter is passed to the function. Any changes made inside the function do not affect the original value. Here the function modifies the local copy of x, leaving the original num unchanged. Call by reference. In call by reference, the actual parameter's address is passed. Any changes made inside the function affect the original variable. Here, the modify value function updates the actual value of num using its memory address. Now, let's explore some advanced concepts in functions, starting with recursion. Recursion is when a function calls itself. It's especially useful for problems like factorials and Fibonacci sequences. Here's an example to calculate the factorial of a number using recursion. In this example, the factorial function keeps calling itself until it reaches the base case. This approach is elegant but requires careful handling to avoid infinite recursion. Scope and lifetime of variables. Understanding the scope and lifetime of variables is crucial when working with functions. Scope defines where a variable can be accessed local, global. Lifetime determines how long a variable exists in memory. Here's an example of local and global variables. Here, local var is accessible only within display, while global var can be accessed anywhere in the program. Inline functions are those where the compiler replaces the function call with its code to improve performance. Although C doesn't explicitly have inline functions like C, you can achieve a similar effect by using macros. This macro acts as an inline function, reducing the overhead of a function call. That's a wrap on functions in C programming. Let's quickly recap. We started with an introduction to functions, exploring built-in and user-defined types. We discussed parameter passing, comparing call by value and reference. Finally, we explored advanced topics like recursion, scope and lifetime of variables, and inline functions. Today we're diving into one of the most fundamental yet powerful concepts that are arrays, strings, and pointers in C. By the end of this session, you'll have a solid understanding of introduction to arrays, single-dimensional and multi-dimensional arrays, working with strings, initialization, input-output, and manipulation functions, pointers and arrays, pointer arithmetic, and array of pointers. So grab your notebook and let's get started. Introduction to arrays. Let's begin with arrays. In C, an array is a collection of elements of the same data type, stored at contiguous memory locations. Arrays allow you to store multiple values in a single variable, making your program efficient and structured. Single-dimensional arrays. A single-dimensional array is essentially a list. Here's how you declare and initialize one. In this example, the array numbers holds 5 integers. You can access elements using their index starting from 0. Multidimensional arrays. Multidimensional arrays allow us to create tables or matrices. For example, a 2D array represents a grid. Here's an example. In this program, matrix to 3 represents a 2 cross 3 grid. Nested loops are used to access and print each element. Working with strings. Strings in C are essentially arrays of characters terminated by a null character /0. Let's look at how to initialize and manipulate strings. String initialization. You can initialize strings in 2 ways. First is using character arrays, and second is using string literals. Here, the %s format specifier is used to print the string input and output. To take string input from the user, you can use scan for gets. However, gets is discouraged due to potential buffer overflows. Let's see an example. Always specify a size limit in scan to avoid memory issues. String manipulation functions. C provides several functions for string manipulation in the string.h library. Let's look at some common ones. First is strlen, it finds the length of a string. Second, we have *p, it copies one string to another. And the third one is *cat, which concatenates two strings. These functions save a lot of time when working with strings. Pointers and arrays. Pointers and arrays are closely related in C. An array name acts as a pointer to its first element. Let's explore this relationship. Pointer arithmetic with arrays. You can use pointer arithmetic to navigate through arrays. Here's an example. Here asterisk ptr plus I accesses elements of the array using pointer arithmetic. Array of pointers. An array of pointers allows you to store addresses of multiple variables or strings. Here's an example. In this example, names is an array of pointers, each pointing to a string literal. That's a wrap for today. Let's recap. We started with arrays, covering single and multidimensional arrays. Then, we explored strings, including initialization and common functions like strlen, startp, and strucat. Finally, we delved into pointers and arrays, focusing on pointer arithmetic and arrays of pointers. Practice these examples and let me know if you have any questions. Pointers in C programming. Pointers are one of the most powerful and essential features of C, allowing you to work directly with memory addresses. By the end of this video, you will understand what pointers are and how to declare and initialize them. Pointer-to-pointer concepts, dynamic memory allocation using malloc, calloc, realloc, and free. How to use pointers with functions for efficient programming. So let's dive in. Introduction to pointers. Let's start with the basics. A pointer is a variable that stores the memory address of another variable. Instead of storing a value directly, it points to the location where the value is stored. Here's how to declare a pointer. The int specifies that this pointer will store the address of an integer variable. The asterisk indicates that ptr is a pointer, declaring and initializing pointers. Now, let's see how to declare and initialize pointers. In this example, int num is equal to 10, it creates an integer variable. Int asterisk ptr, it declares a pointer. Ptr is equal to and num, it assigns the address of num to ptr. Using asterisk ptr accesses the value stored at the address. Pointer to pointer. A pointer to pointer stores the address of another pointer. Here's how it works. In this example, ptr1 stores the address of num. ptr2 stores the address of ptr1. Using double asterisk, ptr2 retrieves the value stored at num. Dynamic memory allocation. Dynamic memory allocation allows us to allocate memory at runtime. This is achieved using functions like malloc, alloc, realloc, and free from the clib.h library. Using malloc, malloc stands for memory allocation. It allocates a block of memory and returns a pointer to the beginning of the block. Here's an example. Using calloc. Calloc initializes all allocated memory to 0. Here's how it differs from malloc. Using realloc. Realloc resizes the memory block without losing existing data. Let's modify our previous example. Freeing memory. Remember to use free to release memory when it's no longer needed to avoid memory leaks. Pointers and functions. Pointers and functions are two powerful concepts in C that work together to enable dynamic memory management, function parameter passing, and efficient manipulation of data. Passing pointers to functions. Pointers are often passed to functions to modify variables directly. Let's see an example of swapping two numbers. Returning pointers from functions. Pointers can also be returned from functions. Here's an example of a function returning a dynamically allocated array. Let's recap what we covered today: basics of pointers, declaration, initialization, and pointer to pointer. Dynamic memory allocation using malloc, calloc, alloc, and free. Using pointers with functions for efficient data manipulation. Pointers are a cornerstone of C programming, enabling low-level memory access and optimization. Practice these concepts to master them. So now we are going to make a guess the number game project. The game will allow the player to guess a random number, providing hints like too high or too low until the correct number is guessed. First, we start with the basic setup. Then we use the stio.h library for input and output, stlib.h for generating random numbers, and time.h to seed our random number generator with the current time. This ensures we get a different number each time we play the game. Then in the next step, we seed the random number generator with the current time using time 0 and use ran to generate a random number between 1 and 100. The %100 plus 1 ensures the number stays within this range. Now for the fun part. The game works in a loop where the player enters their guess and the program tells them if their guess is too high or too low once they guess correctly. The program congratulates them and shows the number of attempts. We keep the loop running until the correct guess is made. To make the game more fun, we added a replay option. After each game, the program asks if you want to play again. If you enter Y, the game restarts, otherwise it thanks you and exits. Now that we've walked through the code, let's run the game and see it in action. See, the game tells you if your guess is too high or too low, and it congratulates you when you get it right. So now let's look at some interview questions that are asked in C interviews. So the first one is, what is the difference between plus plus I and I plus plus? If you know the answer, then comment below. And don't worry, I will also tell you the answer of each questions. Plus plus I increments the value of I before using it, while I plus plus uses the value first and increments it afterward. Second one is, what is a segmentation fault? How do you debug it? Its answer is, a segmentation fault occurs when a program tries to access an illegal memory location, such as dereferencing a null or uninitialized pointer. The third question we have is, what is the significance of the static keyword in C? The answer is that the static keyword limits the scope of a variable or function. A static variable inside a function retains its value between function calls. The fourth question we have, what is the difference between struct and union? The answer is, in struct, all members have their own memory locations, whereas in union, all members share the same memory space. So the last question we have is, what is the difference between malloc and calloc functions? So the answer for this question is that malloc allocates a single block of memory without initializing it, whereas calloc allocates multiple blocks of memory and initializes all of them to 0. So now let's look at some tips for coding interviews. Always write clean, modular code. Use meaningful variable names and include comments. Practice common problems like reversing a string, finding prime numbers, and sorting algorithms. Understand the basics of data structures such as linked lists, stacks, and queues in C. Be comfortable with debugging. Learn to use tools like GDB for identifying runtime errors. So now at last, let's test your skills. How would you reverse a string in C without using the str function? Write your answers in the comments below and I'll pick a few to explain in the next video. Before you go, here's one bonus tip. In C interviews, most questions test your fundamentals. Brush up on pointers, memory management, and control flow. And always test your code for edge cases. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more such tutorials. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.